When Adam Kimbrough found an old cassette tape in a desk drawer during his freshman year in 2017, he had no idea it would take him back in time to 1981, and through space to Saturn. I'm Jason Evans Groth. This is Library Stories. It happened on an October afternoon in NC State's amateur radio station in Daniels Hall. The Ham Shack, as in ham radio, was one of Kimbrough's new hangout spots. He had earned his first amateur radio license as a high school freshman in Richmond, Virginia, and when he came to NC State, he wasted no time in finding the campus station, W4ATC, Whiskey 4 Alpha Tango Charlie. He'd been rummaging around in the station when he laid hands on the cassette. Its label read Voyager II Saturn, 881. Kimbrough popped it in a player and discovered a recording of an August 1981 broadcast from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL.
Okay, I'm about to get set up here. Get one that shows a lot of banding structure.
JPL was sharing news of the Voyager II spacecraft to amateur radio listeners. Someone at the Ham Shack must have recorded it 36 years earlier. Kimbrough guessed and hoped that there would also be astronomical images on the tape. Ham radio operators can broadcast audio signals in a format called SSTV, slow scan television, that those listening can convert into images.
While most of the images on this tape are in black and white, a few are in color and have been recorded using the standard red, green, blue.
I'm Adam Kimbrough.
This is Adam.
Back then, you had to have a separate box, a transceiver, and the one that the NASA guys used was called a Robot 400, and I think they used a Robot 800, and then there's a monitor, separate monitor that goes with it that would display it. But nowadays in SSTV, in amateur radio, you can use just your laptop and software.
Kimbrough needed to convert the recording into a digital format to decode these signals and see the images. So he headed to Hill Library to convert the tape to MP3s in a music booth in the Digital Media Lab. Soon, Kimbrough was listening to the voices of two radio operators from JPL's W6VIO station, explaining Voyager 2's approach to Saturn and the photos it had taken. Then the voices stopped and a series of beeps began, the SSTV image data.
And, the Voyager 2 is going to photograph the ring's edge on when it flies through the plane of the rings. Now, it doesn't actually fly through the rings, but outside the rings, through the plane of the rings, and that'll provide an opportunity to test this theory of dust above the rings. So here we go with the ring picture, W6 VIO video.
At one point, one of the operators sent an image that was just transmitted from Voyager 2 to the NASA station.
W6 VIO, slow scan TV, this picture of the rings from the Voyager spacecraft taken and returned to the Earth just now. The light time is an hour and 26 minutes and some seconds. It's a long way out there. W6 VIO, slow scan TV.
So that was really cool.
The next day, Kimbrough used multi-scan 3B software on his laptop to convert audio into images. The future engineer had taken a cassette twice his own age, magnetic tape gathering dust in a drawer, and extracted Saturn. But Kimbrough's curiosity about the tape wasn't completely satisfied. Had he gone to all this trouble, fun as it was, just to produce an MP3 file that was already available on the web? On JPL's website, he found highlight reels of the 1981 broadcasts.
This is Dr. Bruce Murray, Director of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. The Voyager spacecraft have completed their prime mission, exploring the planets Jupiter and Saturn.
Two photographs of Saturn taken respectively by Voyagers 1 and 2 show the changes occurring in the 9 months between the two flybys. At left, the image made by Voyager 1, and at right, the image made by Voyager 2. The gravitational pull of Mars accelerated the spacecraft toward Jupiter, where a similar push was given to the spacecraft in the direction of Saturn and its moons. Here is a photo of the Titan Centaur on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral.
but not the unedited transmission he now had on his laptop. Kimbrough was pleased to know the cassette from the Ham Shack was not just an analog copy of existing web content, but a unique find.
And this picture was made on August 3rd from a range of about 14 million miles, and it shows filamentary markings, which are about 7,500 miles long. And they rotate
a few days later,
the
the story of Kimbrough's use of the Hill Library found its way to me, digital media librarian Jason Evans Groth. I helped design the infrastructure, the rooms, the equipment, software, and support that enables users to digitize old analog technologies. Enabling folks to take something and transform it from, essentially, a thing taking up space in a drawer into a history lesson that connects cassette decks to Saturn, audio to video, the past to the present. It's exactly why the libraries provides media spaces. So when I invited Kimbrough back to the Digital Media Lab to talk about his experience, we shared some laughs about my familiarity with 1980s cassette tapes versus his lack thereof. Kimbrough admitted that he wasn't sure at first how to handle the cassette.
Yeah, when I first picked it up, and put it in the thing, I was like, wait, if I rewind this, am I gonna break it?
It's a good question to ask.
Is the thing gonna explode on me?
Yeah, because it...
I asked Kimbrough how he became interested in ham radio. What drew a 21st century young man to a 20th century technology? Kimbrough responded that he was a hiker.
Seeing the applications of ham radio in the outdoors and hiking, I'm a big hiker, and ham radio can be used a little more effectively than cell phone. Amateur radio is a form of communication that's entirely self-reliant. All you need is a battery, transceiver, and a wire, and you can communicate with anyone as close or as far as you want. You can make contacts on 5 watts, which is power of a light bulb, which is pretty amazing.
To reach people in disaster areas, Morse code on a ham radio has a narrow bandwidth signal that operates at very low power. Compare that efficiency with contemporary communication technologies powered by electrical grids, towers, cables, and vast networks. Kimbrough's interest in these uses of ham radio led him to get a license at age 15 for the VHF and UHF bands, local and regional communications. He joined an amateur radio club in Richmond, made friends with fellow enthusiasts, and got licensed for the HF bands, high frequencies.
And I could communicate with other continents now. But once I got into that I left behind VHF, UHF. Yeah, it was super fun.
Soon after Kimbrough arrived at NC State and joined W4ATC, he entered the station into a school club Roundup competition sponsored by a National Association for Amateur Radio. Schools across the country, from elementary schools up to colleges, competed to see who could make the most contacts over 24 total hours, 6 hours maximum per day.
It's a quick exchange. You say your call sign, you give them a signal report, and then you're out, and it's the next person. I think I made about 300 and some contacts. I went all out.
In the summer of 2018, Kimbrough's enthusiasm for amateur radio secured him a temporary position at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory's Very Large Array in Socorro, New Mexico. He applied for the position and, after not hearing back, used his ham radio contacts to follow up.
I messaged one of my ham radio friends, who I've actually never met, but just a guy that I know online and who's quite popular in the ham radio community because he's got a podcast, YouTube channel, and things like that.
Kimbrough's friend was Sterling Coffey, call sign N0SSC, who also blogs at N0SSC.com, who had the same position at the Very Large Array, or VLA, a few years earlier. Coffey nudged the VLA staff on Kimbrough's behalf, and they offered Kimbrough the position. While ham radio operators are largely unfamiliar with the specific kinds of frequencies the VLA uses, a love of broadcasting and a curiosity about making faraway connections made Kimbrough the ideal candidate for this position, as well as a research position in the fall of 2017 at NC State.
And what helped even more was that research position that I did in the fall at NC State, because I really got to start using these instruments, oscilloscopes, vector network analyzers, all of that, and actually perform field tests and things like that, and get acquainted with the units of measurement for RF, and decibels, and working with stuff like that. So that helped a lot. But ham radio for sure does give you a perspective of how these radio waves are working and what you need to watch for, I guess, as far as interference goes.
Kimbrough explained that the VLA has 28 radio telescope dish antennas at a 7,000-foot elevation in a dry landscape with little cloud cover, which all makes receiving signals from space easier. In June 2018, during a large power outage at the site, Kimbrough was working to prevent radio frequency interference from nearby towers, people's phones, or satellites from affecting the antennas.
If you have an interest in something, just go out there and do whatever it is that interests you, and other people may follow, or you'll inspire some other people.
Despite loving his time at NC State, Kimbrough is transferred to Virginia Tech.
Use your resources, anything really, that you can get your hands on anything you want. So definitely take advantage of it.
Kimbrough currently is a member of the Virginia Tech Amateur Radio Association, K4K DJ, after his 6-month stint as the co-op student at the VLA. As Kimbrough finished his first conversation with me in October of 2017, he noted the serendipity of spending time thinking about Voyager II's visit to Saturn. Saturn had, just a few weeks before, been in the news again, when the Cassini spacecraft ended its mission with a death plunge into the ringed planet. Voyager II, meanwhile, has been busy since it left Saturn in 1981.
Voyager II's trajectory will take it to Uranus in 1986, to Neptune in 1989, and then into interstellar space.
Now almost 11 billion miles from Earth, at the very edge of the solar system. It carries another old analog technology, a 12-inch gold-plated copper phonograph record containing sounds and images of life and culture on Earth. Now, should any aliens out there find that golden disc and want to digitize it, you should know that the library's digital media spaces could be available to you. But in the meantime, the NC State community can borrow and listen to terrestrial copies, which can be borrowed from the libraries and listened to in those same spaces. I'm Jason Evans Groth. This is Library Stories.